Welcome to your daily dose of sci-fi adventures. New stories dropped every single day. Smash that subscribe button and ring the to help us reach 1,000 subscribers and unlock even more epic cosmic tales. The twin suns of Solara 3 hung low in the sky, their blood-orange light spilling across an endless sea of discarded starship hulls and twisted engine cores in the waning glow. The Junkyard resembled a graveyard for a once great civilization. Remnants of vessels that had charted the galaxy now lay abandoned, their technologies scavenged and repurposed by those who eked out a living. Among the metal carcasses, Aaron Voss stepped from his battered skiff, its hull patched so many times it might have crumbled under its own weight. Yet it still flew just barely against the red dust winds that howled across the plains. Aaron's scavenger rig was modest, a scruffy canvas tunic, reinforced leather vest, utility belts bulging with grav-wrench tools, plasma cutters, and an ancient scanner that cracked and sputtered like a dying star. He inhaled the familiar tang of ozone and fossilized fuel, the scent of forgotten wars and obsolete dreams. In the decades since the galactic calamity reduced interstellar civilization to fractured outposts and scavenger clans, these junkyards had become marketplaces for trinkets of power. Microfusion cores, stabilized graviton emitters, rare crystal conduits, anything that could be sold or jury-rigged into a working device, fetched a heavy price in the frontier worlds. Aaron knelt at the lip of a crater where a long-dead cruiser's dorsal spine had collapsed. His scanner's readout fluttered erratically, but he discerned a faint energy signature too organized to be a random fragment. With a grunt, he pried away a tangle of cable housings to reveal a sleek helmet, its surface marred by pitting and corrosion, but otherwise intact. Unlike the chunky salvage-grade helmets peddled on Solara the Third's trading posts, this one bore an elegance of design, smooth, aerodynamic contours, an almost organic integration of visor and cranium, and a series of looping, undeciphered runes etched into its composite alloy. Aaron's pulse quickened. He set the helmet on a fold of cloth beneath a rotting bulkhead panel to examine it more closely. The visor's reflective surface, scratched and scuffed, still caught enough light to mirror the twin sun's glare. On a spur, he pressed his scanner's probe to the helmet's seal. There was a sharp crackle of static. Then nothing, no coherent data, no energy level reading, just the familiar unknown protocol's warning. "Looks like someone really wanted to hide you," he muttered, nudging his scanner aside. He slipped off the energy pack strapped across his back and fitted it into the helmet's power port. With an experimental click, his heart pounded in his throat as he pressed the activation latch at the back. At first, there was only darkness. Then, a soft hum resonated through the visor's frame, and the runes along its rim faintly glowed in a sapphire hue. The air around him seemed to thicken. Aaron froze, every nerve ending alive with a mixture of awe and fear. And then he heard it, as if whispered inside his skull. "Welcome, Commander." He staggered backwards, hands clawing for purchase on the jagged hull of the cruiser. The voice had no echo, no electronic buzz, just a cold, resonant clarity that belonged to an advanced neural interface. He tried to wrench the helmet off, but the inner lining shifted and clamped with gentle pressure, molding tightly to the shape of his head. The visor slid down over his eyes with a pneumatic hiss, sealing him in half-lit twilight inside the helmet's cocoon. His senses amplified, the ambient heat signature of every engine coil, the microfractures in the steel beneath his boots, the distant rumble of seismic stabilizers deep underground. A translucent display flickered into view across his field of vision, text streaming in an alien script, morphing gradually into common galactic standard. Yamako Pietitus are identified. Command classification, Alpha 7 designation, Altair Ren subject. Status, deceased, lapsed time since death, 412 years protocol. Memory reconstruction, active for 112 years. The words echoed in his mind, cold and unyielding. He blinked, trying to clear the fog. Altair Ren? He reached up, pressing a brow ridge that glowed faintly. Initiate memory excavation. He commanded without fully understanding why. The helmet responded, its HUD overlay shifting to schematics of starship decks, weapon configurations, tactical grids, and star charts. Aaron's chest tightened. He was a scavenger, hardly a commander of anything. Yet the helmet insisted he was someone else, someone who had fallen in the final days of a war that had fractured reality itself. Panic rose, but the helmet's interface provided no option to power down. With a reluctant breath, Aaron let his fingers dance across the neural stimulant nodes built into the helmet's crown. A rush of energy flooded his neurons and unnatural clarity. As if centuries of unused memories were vying for release, visions assaulted him. He saw himself standing on the bridge of a star dreadnought, silver armor gleaming, rallying armadas against an unseen foe. He felt the rumble of a supernova cannon charging deep within the ship's core, the collective hope and terror of a million souls riding on his decisions. He heard the final transmission, Altair's voice unwavering. "Evacuate all sectors. I'll hold the breach." The blast, a shattering white light, and then oblivion. Aaron gasped for air, though he was already breathing. The helmet's display blinked up the memory reconstruction percentage, already at 17%. It analyzed brainwave patterns, matching his mind's synaptic pathways to implanted memory backups. A digital voice, now more insistent, intoned, "Commander, primary objective incomplete. Universe status unstable. Temporal breach detected. Niller ascendancy imminent." He staggered to his feet, the visor's augmented reality outlining points of interest across the junkyard power nodes, hidden caches, potential data vaults like guiding beacons. His scavenger instincts warred with the helmet's drilled-in orders. He wanted to rip it off, hurl it into the red dust, and forget everything. But relief was drowned by the cold import of the helmet's final words: "Execute protocol, resume." "Command." Arn's reflection shimmered in the cracked surface of a discarded solar panel's array. His dark eyes, usually cautious, measured, now burned with a flicker of something else, purpose. He flexed his fingers inside the leather gloves of his tunic, imagining the weight of the Star Cruiser's command baton in his grasp. He was a scavenger no more. The junkyard, with its bones of ancient battleships, was suddenly the staging ground of a war he had never asked to fight. But the war was real, and it was beginning again. With a final glance at the helmet's shifting display, Aaron squared his shoulders and strode toward his skiff. In its cramped cockpit, he secured the helmet beside the navigation console. The HUD overlaid a path to the nearest salvage depot, its coordinates repurposed as waypoints for long-dormant relay stations. Perhaps there he could find tools to purge this alien AI. Or perhaps the depot held echoes of Altair's own archives waiting to be rediscovered. He engaged the skiff's repulsors, the engines coughing to life. Dust swirled into the twilight as he rose above the junkyard plains, heading east toward the dying city of Kelvin's Reach. The helmet's sapphire glow pulsed in the corner of his vision, a lighthouse for a soul adrift in time. Below him, the tombstone hulls of forgotten warships stretched like skeletal fingers across the desert floor. Somewhere among them lay the key to an ancient power and a destiny that had outlived its owner by for centuries. Aaron Voss, scavenger of the fringes, embarked on a journey not of his choosing. But as the helmet whispered the coordinates of his next objective, he realized there was no turning back. The sun set fully now, and the red shadows crept like tendrils across the metal wasteland. In the cockpit, the neural interface blinked, memory core at 30%. "Welcome back, Commander." And Aaron Voss, whether he liked it or not, accepted his place in the stars. The cold metal of the bunkhouse wall pressed against Aaron's shoulder as he slumped against it, the helmet's gentle hum vibrating through his skull. Dawn light filtered in through a fissure where the old viewports had cracked, painting the room in pale blue. Outside, the red sands of Solara 3 were calm for once. The howling winds stilled in the lull before morning. But inside the cramped chamber, Arn's heart raced. He tried to wrench the helmet free, but the neural clamps had bonded to his skull with a grip that felt less mechanical and more organic. The more he struggled, the tighter the inner lining seemed to hold. With nothing to lose, he pressed a hidden ridge above the left template control interface exposed by the scratches that had pitted the helmet's surface. His voice emerged hoarse, tinny through the sealed visor. "Status report." Silence. Then, with surgical precision, a translucent menu glowed into view in his helmet's heads-up display. "Memory reconstruction. 38%. Primary directives, classified external communications, offline neural link, active for centuries after death. Altair Wren's mental archive was awakening and Aaron was its host. He exhaled, letting his hands drop to his knees. The visors, augmented reality overlay shifted into a schematic of the bunkhouse, highlighting his own gear, plasma cutter, grav-wrench kit, fusion cells, but superimposed atop that was a ghostly blueprint of an interstellar command module. Alphanumeric strings fluttered beside each worn tool, instructing modifications he did not understand. He closed his eyes against the flood of information. Memories triggered by the helmet swirled like ghosts in the back of his mind. A child's laughter in a courtyard on Centaurus Prime, the weight of a command baton, screams of dying Marines, the agonizing roar of a temporal rift collapsing. Each fragment was searing yet distant, as though watching through someone else's eyes. The helmet's voice broke through, calm and insistent. Memory block 40% restored. Access personal logs. Aaron fought the urge to succumb. He pictured the battered scanner and tapped a mental command, log access deny. A shock of static crackled inside the visor. The words in his vision reshuffled themselves. Unreadable. The helmet countermanded. Commander, mission parameters require full integration. Recommend proceeding. He swallowed. Proceed, he whispered. Voice trembling. A torrent of images crashed into him. He saw himself Altair Wren standing on the deck of the celestial Aegis as it plunged into the heart of a supernova. Flames lit the bulkhead. Crewmen lined the railings, faces etched with hope and fear. In Wren's hand, the command baton glowed like a beacon. He shouted an order, his voice rising above alarms. Divert all power to shields. Now, a wave of heat knocked Aaron's breath away. Then darkness. Aaron's knees buckled. I can't, he gasped, shaking his head as the last fragments of that memory scorched his mind. He collapsed onto the bunk's mattress, the room spinning, but the helmet's display spun with him, rapidly pinging diagnostic data, neural sync, 68% cognitive overload. Warning temporal rift resonance, detected. The bunkhouse door grated open, and Aaron heard a familiar rasp, his own mechanical scanner left on the floor, clicking as it rebooted after an earlier power surge. He ignored it, focusing on the visor's prompt, Commander, engage training simulations or access live mission feed. His pulse thundered. Training simulations were holographic recreations of ancient battles, environments so vivid they could break a novice's mind. Live mission feed, if any network node was still broadcasting, would be even riskier. Raw data of real-time anomalies in spacetime, perhaps the same breaches Altair had warned of. Aaron closed his eyes, chest tight. He pictured the daily grind of a scavenger's life, the friction of metal undergloves, the bleached desert sunlight through cracked visors, the endless monotony of hauling scrap for a handful of credits. He was not a commander, he was a survivor of broken worlds. And yet, the helmet demanded obedience. Training, he said finally. The bunkhouse dissolved. Aaron lurched forward as spatial geometry warped around him. He found himself standing on a vast holographic bridge, crew stations blinking, consoles unlabeled but humming with latent power. The hologram coalesced into the image of Commander Altair Wren, taller, broader, eyes steely with purpose. Report, Commander, the hologram said. Aaron's throat closed. He opened his mouth. Only the helmet's speaker responded in his place. All systems nominal. Awaiting orders. The hologram's gaze sharpened. Good. We are moving to intercept the Niller Nexus at coordinate Sigma 9. Tactical grid is compromised. Execute evasive maneuvers and ready the singularity cannon. Singularity cannon. Aaron echoed, as though tasting the words for the first time, in his HUD. The cannon's schematics unfolded. An arc reactor of glowing filaments, containment fields, power conduits. Aaron's fingers burned to touch the controls. Acknowledged, he said. Diverting power to. He faltered as the simulation jolted, the bridge shaking as if struck. The holographic window to space rattled, a crackle of alarms, and then an explosion. The roof ripped away, stars pouring in. Aaron staggered as a wave of heat washed over him. He heard the cries of dozens of crewmen, the groan of metal tearing. Brace for impact, Wren's voice thundered. Then, as reality dissolved, the helmet's voice whispered, moment recorded, simulation complete. The bunkhouse reformed around him. Aaron lay panting, sweat beading at his temples despite the chill that lingered in his skin. The visor's display showed memory integration, 84% cognitive overload, critical temporal breach proximity, plus 20 to Delta calm anchor amidst the chaos. Commander, the helmet said, your capabilities match archive specifications. Recommendation, access primary objective file. Aaron closed his eyes against the helmet's brilliance. After a moment, he gave in. Open file. A file icon hovered before him. He selected it by nodding. A cascade of text and schematics flooded the HUD. Project Phoenix Veil Objective, Seal. Temporal Breach, Threat, Niller Ascendancy. Action, deploy quantum stabilization grid across jump network. Priority, Alpha Dotix hailed. Mind reeling. The Niller interdimensional predators, who consumed entire realities, had nearly succeeded once. Altair Wren's sacrifice had halted them, but the breach had only been contained, not destroyed. And now, for centuries later, the anomaly was stirring again. Arn's knuckles whitened on the bunk's edge. The helmet sensed his turmoil, offering reassurance in that same cold, resonant tone. Commander, operational resources are proximate. Recommend mobilizing to Lagrange Station Delta. Network uplink there will grant access to reserve fleet assets. Lagrange Station Delta. He had heard the name in hushed rumors, an orbital hub over Europa. Abandoned after the calamity, if the helmet was right. It held the dormant infrastructure Altair needed. If not, Aaron would be chasing phantoms across a dying galaxy. He forced himself upright. The helmet's runes pulsed with quiet urgency. In the bunkhouse mirror, he half saw his own reflection shifting into Altair's features, silvered hair, sharper jawline, eyes of stern authority. He blinked, and it was gone. All right, he said to the empty room, let's find your station. He rose, sealing the bunkhouse door behind him. The scanner clicked itself back into his belt, redundant. Now that the helmet charted the path, Arn's scavenger life was over. Ahead lay corridors of ice and steel, silent ghosts of once gleaming halls, and a chance to stop an ancient enemy from spilling across time itself. With determination settling in his chest, he strode into the dawn. The red sands of Solara 3 gave way under his boots, and above him, the twin suns shone down on a man reborn, both scavenger and commander, bound together by a helmet that held a universe's worth of memory, and a mission that would soon rewrite history. A hollow silence greeted Aaron as he stepped onto the frozen landing pad of Lagrange Station Delta. The once grand orbital bastion hung suspended above Europa's cracked ice crust, its massive rings warped and half-collapsed, like the ribcage of a giant beast left to rust. Through the helmet's augmented optics, he saw dormant docking clamps, sealed maintenance bays, and shattered solar rays drifting in microgravity. Each fragment bore the scars of centuries of neglect and the promise of reawakening. His skiffs, thrusters cut out with a soft hiss, Aaron disembarked, boots clanking on composite flooring beneath layers of accumulated frost. The helmet's HUD projected an overlay grid, marking the optimal route to the central nexus chamber where the quantum jump relays lay in cold stasis. Subtitles scrolled beside each corridor. Deck 7, Logistics, Deck 5, Crew Quarters, Deck 3, Reactor Core, Deck 1, Command Nexus. Aaron chose Deck 5 Crew Quarters, hoping to find power conduits or emergency reactors to bootstrap the station's systems. He activated his plasma cutter, slicing through a jammed airlock. A hiss of recycled atmosphere greeted him, stirring motes of ice into the stale air. Overhead lights flickered as emergency generators sputtered to life. Atmosphere sealing offline. Minor leaks detected, the helmet reported. Recommend repair prior to full power-up. He jacked into a maintenance port, routing juice from his fusion cells to the station grid. Panels overhead glowed as he bypassed corroded relays, sweat beading on his brow beneath the visor. The corridors thrummed with low power, and a distant hum of turbines told him the station was waking from its slumber. Footsteps echoed as he pressed onward. The quarters were in disarray, bunks torn from walls, lockers torn open. personal mementos frozen in midair by long-dead gravity cycles. He paused by a cracked holo display, brushing frost powder from the glass. Ghostly images of families, children, and hopeful faces shimmered faintly. A jolt rippled through the station. Lights flickered violently. The reactor core, he realized, needed stabilization. If he didn't reroute power soon, the whole station might collapse. He sprinted toward Deck 3, corridors tilting as the gravity generators struggled. The helmet overlaid schematics of the reactor drum, a massive torque coil encased in crystal lattices. Once the heart of Delta's station power dot in the control room. The reactor's containment field glowed a feeble red. Aaron knelt before the main console. Guided by Altair's disembodied voice, bypassed the subroutine lock and engage auxiliary cold fusion loop. He mumbled the command and slashed at the security panel. Sparks flew, but the override engaged. The reactor's color pulsed from red to green, and warmth flooded the bulkheads. Reactor stabilization, 92%, the helmet announced. Temperature at optimal levels. A triumphant smile cracked Aaron's face. Even as alarms blared down the halls, through the viewport, he saw a cluster of frigates phasing in from hyperspace Delta Wing. Hulls painted in the old Resistance colors. Automated docking clamps closed around their bays and mechanical arms extended. Transferring cargo crates stamped with archival seals. The station's calm array sparkled to life. A static-laced transmission crackled through Aaron's helmet. "This is Admiral Rayla Torn of Fleet Command. To any who can hear, we read you, Delta. Come in." Aaron's chest tightened. He leaned close to the console, fingers trembling. "This is Commander Renno, Interim Commander Voss Lagrange Station Delta. I read you, Admiral." A pause bridged a centuries of silence. Then her voice, firm yet weary, "Activate the jump network. The Niller breaches are expanding. We have 4 hours before they consume the Orion corridor. Commander, we're counting on you." His heart pounded. Fleet Command ships lined the docking rings, their thrusters ready. Weapons cold but loaded. Through the viewport, he saw Europa's ice plains shimmering like a white desert beneath the station. The helmet mapped out the star charts, each breach marked in pulsing scarlet. He tapped the central console. The quantum jump anchors hummed, and the station's rings realigned. A low-frequency resonance filled the deck as power flowed through crystalline nodes. The HUD counted down, T-minus 0 hours 45 minutes and 23 seconds the time until the first fleet wave could mass jump. Directly into the heart of each Niller breach, Aaron closed his eyes behind the visor, picturing Altair's harnessed courage. "All ships, report status," he ordered, voice steadying. One by one, the responses came. Frigate Aurora Dawnshields at 100%. Weapons charged. Destroyer Sentinel's Wrath ready for vector lock. Carrier Celestial Aegis docking. Bay clear. The helmet glowed. Memory integration now at 96%. Altair's last message played in Aaron's mind. "When they come, strike with everything you have." He grasped the command baton secured to the console, a chrome rod etched with the same runes as the helmet. The station's lights brightened, and a holographic war map shimmered above it, showing the Armada arrayed against the dark breaches swirling at the galaxy's edge. "Transmit jump coordinates," Aaron said. "Lock all vectors. We strike at dawn." A final alarm pulsed, temporal breach resonance escalating. He took a steadying breath and looked out at his fleet, reborn from the ashes of time. His reflection in the HoloLens merged with Altair Wren's determined face. In that moment, Aaron Voss ceased to be a mere scavenger. He was the commander of the last stand, a bulwark against an enemy that had shattered galaxies. The countdown hit 0. Crystal nodes flared. In a cascade of light, the station's rings fractured reality itself. Opening corridors through spacetime, the Armada surged forward, slipping through the jump gates like shooting stars reborn. Aaron braced himself as the helmet crackled, "Welcome back, Commander." And as the frigates and dreadnoughts vanished into the breach, Aaron Voss, a man forged of Junkyard grit and ancient heroism, stared into the void and led the charge that could save the universe. The quantum corridors converged ahead like molten steel, shimmering gateways carved into the fabric of reality. Through the viewport of Lagrange Station Delta, Aaron watched the first wave of fleet vessels emerge into the breach, Behind them, the crimson void seethed with the living darkness of the Niller, tendrils of shadow slithering along the edges of space, hungry for the light. Aaron gripped the command baton tighter, knuckles white against its etched alloy. The helmet's sapphire-runed lines pulsed in time with his heartbeat, now fully synchronized memory integration at 100%. He no longer felt like a scavenger borrowing another's life. He felt Altair Wren, seasoned commander, tempered by centuries of sacrifice, flowing through his veins. Yet there was still Aaron Voss streetwise, instinctual as Sparkran's growing resolve needed. Deploy phase anchor grids, he ordered, voice calm and unwavering across the comnet. Initiate simultaneous jumps to all known breach coordinates. Follow standard Phoenix protocol. A chorus of acknowledgments rang in his mind as the fleet obeyed. The Aurora Dawn and Sentinel's Wrath streaked toward the nearest rifts, weaving through arcs of temporal energy. The celestial Aegis once, the vessel of Wren's final stand hung in the central bay, its hull battered. Shield arrays flickering. Automated docking clamps released a squadron of fighters, their sleek frames painted in the old Resistance insignia. Through his visor's HUD, Aaron saw the breach at Sigma 9, a gaping maw of obsidian light edged with crackling violet arcs. As the first ships phased through, the Niller surged to meet them, amorphous shapes that fractured matter with every writhing movement. On the calm feed, the fighters' voices stuttered one by one. Tracker 1 losing formation. Tracker 2 shields at 40%. Tracker 3 destroyed. Aaron allowed no hesitation. Focus toroidal singularity charges on the breach's rim, he commanded. Voice amplified. Brace for feedback. A roar rolled through the station as the singularity cannon, an ancient weapon deep within Delta's armory, charged. The runes on Aaron's helmet flickered, overlaid across the viewport, offering trajectory vectors. He aimed, then, driving the baton into the console, he triggered the blast. A pulse of concentrated gravity erupted, rippling through the void. In the viewport, the breach warped, its edges thinning, fissuring into fractal patterns until it collapsed inward with a roar that echoed through every metal girder of the station. For a breathless moment, silence reigned. Breach 1 sealed. The helmet intoned .ARIN exhaled, surveying the tactical map. 3 breaches remained, each larger, more volatile. The Niller backlash tested the fleet's cohesion. Warp distortions lanced outward, tearing at ships' hulls. The station rocked as a stray surge of dark energy struck Delta's outer ring. Status? Aaron barked. Minor hull breach, Deck 4. The helmet reported. Life support holding. Patch it, he said, but his mind was already elsewhere on the other breaches. Each required a different approach. At Tau 4, the rift's core pulsed with raw time lattice energy. At Orion's edge, correspondingly smaller but more volatile corridors threatened to branch into subspace. And the final breach, known only as the Ember Spiral, spanned an area so vast it defied conventional sealing methods. Aaron pivoted to the holomap. The helmet projected layered schematics of each rift, color-coded vectors for singularity cannonings, quantum explosives, and stabilized fissure anchors. Admiral Torin, he spoke into his comm. Prepare the heavy battle group for a directed catalyst drop at Ember Spiral. Our singularity cannon won't reach that far. Her reply crackled. Understood, Commander. Battle group mobilizing. As the heavy cruisers disengaged, Aaron turned his focus to the Tau 4 breach. Smaller ships, modified scavenger corvettes, retrofitted with time crystal munitions, ambled into position. Aaron recalled Altair's notes. The munitions could fracture and collapse the breach from within, but at terrible risk to their pilots. Corvette Alpha and Beta, he addressed. The pilots on comm, execute run-through and fire ion rifts. I want full detonation. You're cleared for extraction at the far rim. May the void guide you. Static, then affirm. Copy that, Commander. He watched through the viewport as the corvettes dove into the violet maw, tiny lights streaking forward. Moments later, their hulls erupted in crystalline bursts, and a wave of energy unfurled outward. The breach flickered, then winked out. Breach 2 eliminated. To down, to go. Aaron's chest tightened as the station trembled with renewed Niller counterattacks. On the viewport's peripheral, shadowy silhouettes of Niller dreadnoughts emerged, colossal knights of nothingness. Their rival threatened to overwhelm the fleet's outermost lines. Activate temp shield arrays. Aaron ordered. Route emergency power from station grids. We cannot lose Delta now. Emergency conduits sparked to life. A pale blue barrier shimmered around the station's perimeter, digesting the first onslaught of dark tendrils. Reinforcements surged forth, fighters from the Aurora Dawn slicing through the Niller vanguard. Bombers from the Sentinel's raft dropping quantum charges on the enemy's flank. And then came Orion's Edge. This breach lay perilously close to a civilian colony cluster, hundreds of thousands of souls caught between dimensions. The helmet overlaid collateral impact zones with painful precision. Even a partial misfire would erase entire worlds. Aaron swallowed. All available frigates engage point defense and suppression fire. Support the specialized jump teams only when the node is stabilized. We cannot risk misloads. His words were met with silence as the frigates complied. In the viewport, he saw microjump teams in inertial pods, ghostly specters racing along the breach's periphery, planting subspace anchors calibrated to collapse the rift. Tracking the final detonation sequence on his visor, Aaron counted down. 3, 2, 1. A flash of white light blossomed. The breach sheared inward like a collapsing star. The colony cluster's world ships wobbled as their shields absorbed the aftershock but held. Breach 3 contained, the helmet announced softly. Only Ember Spiral remained. It sprawled like a bleeding wound across the galaxy's edge, a nexus of converging temporal streams. The heavy battle group gathered at Delta's far docking ring, mammoth dreadnoughts, bristling with singularity lances, quantum torpedoes, and phased armor plating. Arin ascended to the observation deck overlooking the ring. He placed the command baton on a pedestal, surveying the massive vessels crowded behind him. Admiral Torin joined him, her silvered hair pulled back in a warrior's braid, eyes bleak but resolute. "It's all on this," she said. "One shot." Aaron nodded. "It's what Altair would have done. Aim the entire battle group's mass. Catalyst array at the breach's heart. I'll initiate the chain reaction." A final tremor shook the station as a Niller dreadnought burst from the Ember Spiral. Its form an impossible geometry that frayed reality. It hurled tendrils of pure, null energy toward the station, but the barrier held. "Now, Commander," Torin shouted. Arin grasped the baton, his voice echoing in the deck. "All ships, fire on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark." A symphony of light erupted. Quantum torpedoes and singularity lances converged into the breach's center, titanic. Explosions ripping through layered time streams. The Ember Spiral convulsed, its radiance swarming outward like the heart of a dying star. Then, with a deafening silence, it collapsed inward, imploding upon itself, leaving only a smooth, dark void where the breach had been. The galaxy exhaled. Moments later, the station's alarms ceased. The viewports showed the fleet emerging from the breach-free corridors of normal space. Didn't see a single Niller silhouette. Across the comm net came cheers. "Commander Renno, Voss breaches sealed. We read you." Aaron sank to his knees, the helmet's runes dimming to a gentle glow. Admiral Torin approached, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You did it," she said softly. He closed his eyes, feeling every fiber of his being settle. "We did it," he corrected, voice thick. "All of us, inside the helmet, Altair's." Final echo shimmered. "Thank you, Commander." And for the first time since he touched the helmet in that red-dusted junkyard, Aaron Voss felt the weight of both their legacies in perfect balance. Below, Europa's ice reflected the dawn of a new era, humanity reborn, horizons unbounded, and a scavenger turned commander ready to lead the galaxy beyond the scars of its past.